myself. I need to go closest to the left. Okay, and then I'm going to screen share. This way as I can. Hi, Hope.
Hi there.
How's it going?
Going well. How are you?
Good. I'm going to go ahead and make you a host. So there you go.
How was your neighborhood shindig last night?
Oh, it was fun. It was good. We bring my husband's car, and it's got a tailgate, a back hatch or whatever. So we sit on the, I guess it's called the tailgate. We sit on the car in the tailgate, which is nice. And then we keep our distance. Everybody was doing social distance, and it was small. There was only 8 total people, and we were all spread out. So it was nice to see our neighbors.
Fun. Good.
Okay, so there you can see the slide, right?
Yeah, I can. It looks great.
Okay, and then let's try, we're just going to do some testing here. I'm going to flip to the other slides. Right, so the other one I'm going to share is this one that has the donation things. Are you able to see that now?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then the next we'll share the actual presentation. We'll start with that. You can see the 50 ways slide.
I can.
Okay, and then the last test is we're going to go to the internet itself, because remember, we're going to do that live exercise. So let me flip over to that one, which is right here. There, I'll leave it on there. So you should see the overview of gender bias, right?
I still see the 50 ways to fight bias.
Okay, got it. So when we do this part, then what I'll do, and we'll just practice it right here, is that I come to here, whoops, and I just have to say stop share. And then what I do is I say share again, and then I share just the screen with the 50 ways thing. Now you should see it, right?
Yeah. Now I'm with you.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this, just so for your own learning, is that the way this Zoom works is that I guess maybe the administrator sets it this way. I'm sharing the PowerPoint application.
Yeah.
And therefore, I'm able to share as many PowerPoint applications as I want by just toggling. But then when I go to the internet, I have to stop sharing and now share the internet instead of PowerPoint.
I see. Yeah. So you're sharing by application rather than screen.
Yeah, but for some reason, the way, you know, I do this through Lean In, and the way they've given me my Zoom is it doesn't let me do it, because at work I am able to do where you share your entire computer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm even seeing, since you've made me a co-host, and I just let Katie in.
Yes, good. Okay, I saw her pop in too. Yeah, good.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Katie.
Hey, good. How are you guys?
Doing well. Doing
So
well.
far, so good, right? We're here. Everything's working.
Yes.
Absolutely. I was just saying, Elba, I see different things as well, like the yes, no, go slower, go faster, and more in the under participants. I've never even seen those functions before. So lean in.
Oh, I see those. I see those. That must be new functionality.
Yeah, they must just have a different kind of Zoom platform.
That's right. That is neat. I wonder what you're saying to go slower for.
I know. I noticed it last night and I was like, I won't mess with it.
That's so neat. So Katie, we were just talking that as part of my alliance with Lean In, they provide me this platform for Zoom on an enterprise level for all of the Lean In regional partners. And it has really interesting functionality that's different from the functionality that I'm using at UPS, for example.
Oh, that is really interesting. I would have thought that it's just all the same.
I know.
Yeah.
It looks normal, quote unquote, to me, I think, because I'm viewing as a participant. So I see what I would typically see, if that eases your mind at all.
Good. So Hope, you are now officially in charge of the admittance, if you're okay with that, right? So you'll just, when you're ready, you let them in. But I think, did you want to wait and let everybody in kind of when we're closer to the right time?
Yeah, we'll let it stack up a little bit. I wanted to see Katie and Elba. I just dropped a link to my Google Drive in the chat to see if people can download that participant handout.
Oh, hey, guess what I learned? It tells me that I have power to enable document sharing in the chat. So you do too, Hope, now. So
perfect. Okay.
Should be able to simply go to the chat, and I guess either there's a ... or you can just paste it in there.
Yeah, I see somewhere where it says file. Let's try that.
Oh, that is cool. And I did check the link and it does work, Hope, just in case we need that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So there we go. I just shared a file in the chat as well.
Awesome.
Ooh, whoa, that's so cool. I did not know that was a thing.
Look at us.
I know.
Just stick with us together and we are going to learn and grow.
That is so, oh, I see it now.
All kinds of
File.
ways.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So maybe, Hope, you could also write a note in the chat.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Hey, I'm going to be moderating the chat. And
I absolutely will. And then I've also got a little sticky that I'm going to be copy and pasting the Venmo and the PayPal just to reiterate what's on this.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you. I was going to ask about that because I was going to say it and then kind of send them to the chat for the details just because I thought that'd be better than, yeah.
And Katie, I made this slide where I put it at the top as well.
Oh, perfect.
So when you just talk away, and when you're talking, I'll just flash it real quick. And then of course it can be in the chat too. But the key is I really want to focus on the content. So we'll just kind of, coast through as quickly as possible so we can get to the content.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll be super quick in the beginning. I'll keep your intro brief, like you said, toss it over to you, and then that's it until very quick 1 minute close, and that's it. So
awesome. And we're wrapping at one, right?
We've got
yes.
one person waiting.
Yeah.
So hopefully people are always late. And I'm trying to get around, like I started thinking the other day, to make the time start earlier. So this is going to be my next strategy, ladies. When we have a meeting that's supposed to be 11:30 to 1, I'm going to say it starts at 11:20.
Yeah.
And with the goal being that, the late people, eventually straggle in, and then we'll really be able to start content at 11:30.
Sure.
But we won't tell them that we're going to officially start. My best friend is a horrible late person her whole life. She just cannot do it. So every time we plan something, I have to plan it for 15 minutes ahead at least, because otherwise, you know, that gives us the late zone.
So you're already conditioned for that from her.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
So whenever you want to start letting people in, we can go ahead and start and, you know, just chat with them and welcome them so that we can really hit the ground running. Yep,
so I'll just admit these 3 and then I'll disable the waiting room so people can just join.
Perfect.
Okay. Admitting all, and then I will disable the waiting room. So welcome everybody.
Hello, welcome everyone.
Yes, glad to have you all with us. We are going to get started right at 11:30. It looks like Alma, Kristen, and Maddie are with us.
Yay, great to see you guys. Yeah, we'll give it another minute and then get started.
Good morning.
Yeah, you guys are welcome to come off mute and say hi if you want to.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Hi, good morning. How is everyone?
Good.
Hey, good morning, Alma.
Good morning.
Now, Elma, I noticed your name Maldonado. Are you related to other Maldonadas here in Atlanta that I might know?
No.
Oh, have you heard of a Monica Maldonado? Well, good. Well, I know some Maldonados.
I might have, yes.
Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And Holly and Kayla have joined us. Hi, everybody. Good morning. We're going to give it a few more minutes.
Yeah, we still have a couple minutes.
Yeah, great to see so many people from the Next on Board leadership team on. Hey, Maddie. Hey, Kristen. Hey, Kayla.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hello.
Hey, great to see you.
Doing well. We had about 42, I think, confirmed for today's session. So we're going to give it just a few, but we're going to blaze through some content today. So we'll be getting started promptly in just a few minutes.
And we will be recording it, which I know the warning sign will come up in a minute when we start it. But that way, if people miss some of it, they can always look at the recording later.
Fantastic. I saw that when I logged on. That's great. I love the disclaimer.
Yes.
Perfect. And Kelly just hopped on. Hi, Kelly. Welcome, welcome. Mila. I feel like everybody's Outlook calendar reminder just went off and now everybody's popping in.
Awesome.
For those of you that are already on, I am going to drop a file in the chat. If you want to download it and print it and use it to follow along today, you're more than welcome to, or you can use it as a follow-up. But it should be a helpful reiteration of today's material.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Hope. Yeah, it's great to see so many familiar faces from the onboard side. I see some from the UPS side as well. So great to see everyone.
Welcome, welcome, everybody. Okay, so I don't know about you. Everybody check their phones. It says 11:30, so I say let's go ahead and launch this party.
All right, let's do it, Alba. Thank you. Yeah, so it looks like we have a good list of people coming on. I know more will kind of trickle in throughout. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. And first of all, thank you all so much for joining us on this very rainy Tuesday afternoon for those of you who are in Atlanta with us. This is our third virtual learning event, and I'm so excited to have you guys all here. My name is Katie Hall, and I'm the governance chair of Next on Board, and I also work in e-commerce strategy at UPS. And also with us today is the amazing Hope Sonam, who is one of our event leads here at Next on Board. She's also the president and founder of The Social Project, which is a boutique social media marketing agency, which you can learn more about at thesocialproject.biz. is. She was the brainpower behind this event, and she's also going to be helping to moderate the chat, so you'll see her around. And of course, we have the woman of the hour, our speaker and facilitator, Elba Perea Gallagher, with us today, leading us through this interactive workshop on 50 ways to fight bias. So thank you, Elba. We're so excited you're here. And before we dive in and I kick it over to Elba, I just wanted to review a few quick housekeeping items. So you should be seeing our speaker Elba as well as slides, and you can kind of change your views in the top right corner of Zoom if you want to see one more than the other, for example. When we kick off, we'll have everyone muted, but we encourage you to send in questions through the Q&A, which you should see on the bottom of your Zoom screen. And again, Hope and I will help kind of moderate there. And please don't hesitate to send in questions. We definitely want this to be conversational. So feel free to keep the chat going there. And ShowMe50, this organization has kindly put together this event for free for Next On Board members and their friends. And so in lieu of ticket costs, there is an opportunity to support the organization through a suggested donation of $10 or $15 now or at the end of the event. You can see it on Elva's slide here, through Venmo or PayPal, which will go directly to this organization. Yeah, Elva has it on the slide here, and I know Hope's going to put it in the chat later as well. And then I just wanted to, I know there's a lot of new faces, so a lot of Next On Board members I see on here, but a lot of new faces too. So those who may be newer to the Next On Board organization or may have been invited by a friend who's a member of On Board, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And Next On Board is an affiliate group of On Board, and our goal is to create a community where early and mid-career professional women can connect, learn, engage, all while pursuing career growth and paths to senior leadership. And so you can find out more about us at onboardnow.org. And you can click on Next On Board at the top, and that's where you can find out more about both of our organizations. And you'll see information on past events, our past newsletters, all kinds of information. And you can also follow us on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of those. If you just search for Next On Board, you'll see us there. And if you have any questions or are interested in speaking to us about membership or how to get involved, you can reach us at our email, nextonboardnow@gmail.com. And so we're always happy to talk to new and prospective members about our organization and how you can get involved. And so, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is our third in a series of virtual events that we'll be hosting until we can all safely meet again in person. And if you follow us on social media, you can find a lot of other great content that our leaders have been posting about what has inspired them, what's kept them engaged and motivated in these trying times. And speaking of our leaders, I also just have to give them a shout out. We have an amazing leadership team of volunteers from a range of different professions that really run this organization for us. And so Hope and I are just two of a team of 9 this year. And we will be renewing the leadership team in the new year. And so if you're interested in volunteering or finding out how to join one of our committees, which are governance, events, marketing, and membership, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more about what that entails. For our members, you'll be getting a leadership application in your email towards the end of the year. But you can always reach out to us again at that email address, nextonboardnow@gmail.com, and we'd be happy to talk to you more about it. And so with that, I want to introduce Elba and toss it over to her. So Elba Perea Gallagher is actually a colleague of mine at UPS, where she's a director of finance, and where we are both celebrating the arrival of a new female CEO, actually. And Elba created this nonprofit, ShowMe50, as a personal passion project and is so dedicated to the mission that she is even here showing up on her day off to be with us. So thank you so much for being here, Elba. We're all thrilled to have you. And with that, I'll toss it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Katie. And also shout out to Hope, who's been amazing coordinating and planning this event with me. As we all know, planning events is quite a challenge, and to do it, it's just kudos. So thank you so much. So we have got a ton of content, and we want to blaze through it. It's going to be very interactive and engaging. So I want you to really put your learning hat on and prepare to really focus Also, I want you to prepare to use your computer. So please keep in mind that you're going to need 2 separate browser windows open, whether you're using, whatever browser you're using. Just be prepared to use 2 tabs to the right of your Zoom tab. We'll put a link in the chat box, and you will copy and paste that link into your clean web browser so that you can access 2 exercises that we're going to do interactively on the internet. So just be thinking about that. So here's our agenda. As Katie mentioned, you can read about me on LinkedIn and look at my profile. I'm 23 years with UPS. I also worked on the e-commerce strategy team before I came back over to my home-based finance. Today, we're going to talk briefly about ShowMe50, ground rules. We're going to talk about the whys about doing these gender bias educational workshops. We're going to do a set of breakout exercises in multiple areas. I'll explain that. And then we're going to have one closing action item where you can really focus on what am I going to do to apply what I've learned from here on out at work or at home. And Hope is going to be managing the chat and putting exercises and links into the chat box. In fact, there's already one that you put out there, Hope, right, which is a link to a one-page handout sheet that you can have with you that defines the biases that we're going to talk about. So listen, we're going to start with doing a poll. So I want you to look on your screen. I want to know how everybody's feeling. I think it's so important for us to know when we meet with our teams at work or in any type of environment, how are people feeling around us, and that we have to recognize that how we feel and what our background is not how everyone's feeling. So let's see, how's everybody feeling today? Mostly good, just okay, or kind of mostly crummy. So let's just take a couple more seconds. Now, when I put these polls up, we're gonna have 7 of them today. Make sure you act fast. We have got to be paying attention and click away. So here we go, I'm about to shut it down. We've got about 80% of the people have voted. So are you guys ready to see how everybody's feeling? So hopefully you can see the poll results. We're feeling mostly good, 65%. Some people though are feeling just okay, and nobody's feeling crummy, but we have more people that might join, so keep that in mind. Okay, hope you found that interesting to kind of see how our peers are feeling today. Okay, so next up, we are going to talk about the why about ShowMe50. Just real quick, what do we do? What's ShowMe50 about? Well, first of all, ShowMe50 stands for Show Me 50% Women Leading. We need more women in leadership roles. And because of systemic bias that impacts race and gender, we have some work to do. So we are associated with the Lean In organization, which works on improving women's skills and confidence, and so do we at ShowMe50 through our workshops, but we also work on influencing company policy change and practices, and we think together that's what's going to get us to 50%. And the ShowMe50 approach is really about creating the motivation to act through events, advocacy, and collaborations like this very workshop today, and provide the ability to execute. We provide toolkits about how to you strategically influence change at your organization in the 4 areas that you see there: gender bias education, which is what today's workshop is all about; transparency, which is policy change; flexibility, which we've gotten a lot of help from COVID; and then executive accountability or executive commitment. And this is demonstrating visible support for gender equality. And as Katie mentioned, we've got a woman CEO, Carol Tomei, which is doing amazing things. I mean, she is just changing the world inside UPS and outside UPS. And so we're super excited. Okay. Let's go. So next up, we're going to talk, I told you we're going to go fast, but Hope, please interrupt me throughout today's workshop. I really want to be engaging and interacting with our audience. So at any time people are asking questions or there's topics people really want to express, I have no trouble with you just interrupting me.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so what is Lean In and what is this 50 Ways to Fight Bias? So I just want to tell you that this is based in science. Lean In collaborated with Stanford University, an organization called Paradigm, and the VMware's Women's Leadership Innovation Lab to come up with this structure. And I'm going to show you physically that this is a kit that comes with flashcards. And so today what you're going to see are the digital flashcards. It also comes with a book of study information, like it has all the end notes. So if people have questions about some of the statistics we use, we have the backup for it. So I love that it's based in science and facts. And so it's really an experiential learning program. And what we're going to do today is tackle 3 different interactive components of this. We're going to do what are called icebreaker cards. We're just going to do one for the interest of time, but I want to let you know that this program is not meant to be a one-time program. This is meant to be something that a department manager would integrate into their group, and they would have these lunch and learns every 3 weeks or so, or even every 2 weeks for at least 3 months. And by that time, you will have been able to cover all of the rich information that is in this program. So we'll do icebreaker cards. We'll do bias definition cards, where we'll learn 6 different biases. Again, we won't be able to cover all 6, but you'll know that they're out there. And then the situational cards, which is going to give us 5 workplace situations, which you can see in the colors down below: hiring, reviews and promotions, everyday interactions, meeting dynamics, and mentors and sponsors. And then it teaches us, when this happens in this situation, here's why it happens, and here's what you can do and say to combat the bias. A couple of ground rules. I want you to remember that bias isn't limited to gender. And we know today the whole landscape of our conversation has changed dramatically, and we are getting a little more comfortable with speaking about bias, discrimination, racial injustices, equity. And so just remember that although today we're talking about gender, what you're going to learn really applies to all facets of the human condition. We fall into bias traps. Knowing that bias exists isn't enough. We have got to commit to action. Stories today should be anonymous. We're going to break out in groups, and you're going to be one-on-one with just a few people, and we'll want to tell our stories, but just please be respectful and try not to use people's names in stories. Be anonymous. Give people the benefit of the doubt. And then over on the right side, you see, again, I mentioned that we might get uncomfortable. You're going to see some images that are going to make you uncomfortable. No judgment. No judging. Participate as much or as little as you want. In all of our lean in meetings, we make sure that people are where they want to be, and we don't force people to feel like they have to participate. And give a chance for others to share. You know, often we're in meetings, and the one senior leader or one particular peer is always talking, and so let's be mindful to give everyone a chance. Sound good? Anybody have any questions on our ground rules? Okay, let's touch on the whys. So, you know, gender bias, whether it's deliberate or unconscious, is holding women back in the workplace. And this morning I had an opportunity. Does anybody know what Leadership Atlanta is? Who's heard of Leadership Atlanta? Hope, I'm not watching the chat, so you're gonna have to tell me. But what Leadership Atlanta is, it's a leadership program where the city of Atlanta has hosted this, I believe it's since the 50s. And it's very prestigious. They only accept like 80 members each year. Very competitive. I was just at the invitation of a colleague, of a friend, attended a workshop this morning called From Racist to Anti-Racist. And it was a guy who had been a skinhead for 8 years when he was young. Shoot, I'm going to tell you his name real quick because I wrote it down. Christian Picciolini, and he just wrote a book about it. And it was a wonderful workshop. But one thing they talked about was, you know, racism, it's not an opinion thing, right? It does exist. We are all racist because we live in a racist society, flat out white supremacist society. And until we have the courage to learn about it and unlearn what we've been taught from society, it happens. And so that's how I feel about gender bias. right? Whether deliberate or unconscious, it is holding women back. It makes it harder for us to get higher, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure, because all of you have experienced it yourself. In fact, I started this organization in the transparency department because companies, almost all companies, have a lot of opaqueness in their talent management system, and it is not a level playing field. And what we're trying to do is really make it fair. So here's the first chart that try to make us a little squirmy. Has anyone heard of the McKinsey and Lean In Women in the Workplace study? It comes out every end of September, so we're about to get another one. The 2020 study will come out at the end of September. This is the 2019 version. And what McKinsey and Lean In do is they go out to large employers and they get all of their data on their employees, and they group it all together by category of level of management. So you can see here from entry level, then manager, you get the routine, right? This is how you rise up the corporate ladder. You can see that at the entry level, which is the first column, women and men are pretty much equally represented. I mean, not exactly, but 48%. And by the way, women are 52% of professional and managerial positions in the US labor force. So it's about even. And then with each rung, you can see that we begin to lose our representation. 38% by the time we go to manager. By the time you get to senior manager, a director, only 34% of that level is women. VP only 30%, SVP 26%, C-suite 21%. So of the companies surveyed, this year there were 329 companies. I believe it was something like, I don't know, 60,000 people that are counted.
Is this United States or is this global, Kayla?
This is the United States. Great question. Lean In and McKinsey are trying to work on how to do a global study. But for the last 5+ years, it's been the US. Also, what else did I want to point out? Oh, let's look at women of color, right? Here's another thing that'll make us squirmy. And right now, I can't see the gallery view. So Hope, I think you could probably see gallery view. But I would be curious, and I won't say anything, but I'd be curious at what's the representation of our own attendance right here at this meeting, right? How many Black women are there in our audience? How many Hispanic women? You can see here that in the light shaded blue with the stripes, the last part of the talent pipeline, women of color are tiny, right? And I happen to know my number because I'm Hispanic. We're 18% of the US population. And so you can see we're part of this women of color. So we could talk a long time on this slide. And what I would encourage you to do is, what can you do at your company to, number one, ask, hey, does my company group our talent pipeline into positions by race and gender? And can we see it? If we can't see it, why not, right? If you can't see it, how can you possibly address it? So that's what transparency is about. At UPS, Katie and I are lucky that, and so many of other you who are here with UPS, we are so fortunate that UPS believes in some transparency, and we actually publish our numbers in our sustainability report, so we can go out and look at them. But I would encourage you to find out from your company, right? So we're gonna just, we're gonna skip the poll, but one thing I like to do is find out, hey, does your company actually publish the numbers? So if anybody wants to comment in the chat box, please do. I would be interested to know. So continuing on the why, I want to mention this concept of the only experience, of being the only woman in the room, the only Black woman in the room, the only Hispanic woman in the room, the only something, right? Even disability, right? If you are the only person in a wheelchair in a room, you are sticking out big time, right? And so I like to read this, not all of it, but this is to express to you what it feels like to be the only one, especially to be a Black woman, okay? I feel like I have to represent the entire race. I need to come across more proficient, more than competent, more than capable. I'm on all the time. And then in the last paragraph, I'm just going to read this part. When you're the only one, you look around you and you realize, okay, I'm different in this room. And for Black women, it's hurtful that despite the civil rights movement, I'm still the only Black person in the room. I think often about Martin Luther King Jr. and the history of Black Americans. People died so I could go to school and have an education. People literally lost their lives so I could work where I'm working, and I'm not going to let their deaths be in vain. That's really important to me. And so when you see a Black person who may be the only one in the room, you know, just keep in mind that their experience is totally different than ours. And for those of you who are working in your companies on initiatives around Black women, especially, this is a great website here on the right that Lenan created. And it's about, you know, the Black woman's experience at work. And it's a single web page with some awesome reference materials. Okay, so let's go and take another poll real quick. And it relates to Black women. I want you to think about the last meeting that you were in, okay? How many Black women were in the room? So think about Zoom meetings. We have them all the time. I think about one of my teams that, certainly on my team, I have no Black women. I have a small team of 6 people. But in the larger sister team, there's 1 Black woman. In the team upstairs, there's 0 Black women. So in the last meeting, Zoom meeting you were at, tell me how many Black women do you remember that were in the room? And we're about 82% vote poll. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and end the poll and just show you. And so this is terrific. Okay, so I think every time I do this, this is a rarity. So I wanna congratulate that at least we have no zeros. And we've got some that have had 3 or more. So this is very hopeful to me, right? But one thing we want to do is just be observant. I think being observant is so important in our growth to have gender equality. One last thing I'll tell you about the why. If you really want to understand and really grow your tolerance for being able to talk about race among your teams, certainly if you're in a leadership role, you've got to be able to help your own team discuss and think about this stuff. So this is a great book, White Fragility. It's, you know, it's getting rave reviews, so please take a look at it. Okay, so we are going to shift gears. I hope now you get a sense of the why. Do we have any questions or comments out there, Hope, sort of about the whys? Why are we doing this and trying to
no, nothing
fight
about
bias?
that. Nothing about that yet. Equifax does share their data on gender and race norms of the talent pipeline. JLL might as well, but I think people are interested in asking. So
that's great. And by the way, everybody, if you go to the ShowMe50 website, right on the front page, the very first slide of the sliders, there's a link and it says 23 steps to change policies. If you get that document, it's got a copy of the gender pipeline slide along with a slide that actually we may cover here today. Okay, so let's switch gears. Remember I mentioned at the beginning that we're gonna have 3 exercises and we're gonna do these 3 interactive parts. One of them is the icebreakers. So we'll do that in a minute. One of them is the biases that we're about to do now, and the third one's going to be those 5 situations. So we're going to start out with understanding the common biases. So here's where we're going to go to the internet, everybody. So I want you to go and open up a new browser tab on your web browser, and I want you to type this address in, or Hope, if you can, or I can paste it into the chat window. Let's see if we can. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to paste it into the chat window. Let's see.
I think I just typed it correctly, so see if that works.
So I just put in the link. You guys should be able to see that. Gender bias card grids overview. Okay, so I want everybody to put that into their chat window. And while you're doing that, I am going to flip over and share the screen of what you should be seeing, okay? So let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so this is what you should see on your screen if you go to that link I pasted. So let me know. We're going to do a little poll. I want to make sure before we start using it that everybody is able to actually see it.
We've got folks saying that they are in.
Okay, so I'm doing a little poll here. If anyone's a no, please mark no so we can wait up for you.
Okay, we've got one no.
Got one no, so let's just hang on because we want to, it's so important in this workshop to really be interactive and for everyone to be on the same page. Remember, the whole reason that I started this organization is to have a level playing field. Everyone should have equal access. So I want to make sure we are 100% yeses.
If you are that no, feel free to message me privately and I can help you.
Oh, yes, that's right. And again, if it's a matter of going wherever your Zoom is, then you just open up a new tab, like you're going to go surf the internet for something else. You're going to search for something else. And then in the little search window part or address, the address of the web browser, you just paste in that link. Okay, and then what you should see is what you're seeing on my screen. And Hope, can you see the screen that I have up, the overview of gender bias with the little window?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's make sure, is anybody else having?
Everybody, so I think we are good.
Okay, so now when you first pop up, you're gonna see this window and I'm just gonna close this little X so that what we have left is this big overview of gender bias. And there's 6 cards on here. And so these are the interactive cards, okay? And what we're gonna do in this next exercise, we're gonna do one together, and then we're gonna break out into, in our breakout groups, and we're going to discuss the others in your individual group. We won't have time to do them all, so you'll be so good at being able to do this, you'll be able to get through at least one, maybe 2 if you're quick. And then when you're done, you'll get a message from me saying, okay, 2-minute warning, and then we'll come back and we'll have a brief sharing of what you learned. So we're gonna do the first one together. The way this works is you're simply gonna click on one of the biases and it pops up. We're gonna do performance bias. So what is performance bias? It's bias based on deep-rooted and incorrect assumptions about women's and men's abilities. But remember when I said that this workshop's about gender bias, but it can apply to anything? I want you to replace this women's and men's abilities with anything, right? It's incorrect assumptions about anyone's abilities. We tend to underestimate women's performance and overestimate men's performance. So I said this is based in science, and so that's based on studies, many studies. In this case, there's one study, and if you bought the kit, or if you actually, oh, it doesn't have a, oh, it does have a link. Let's see if it works. You can go to the study. Yep, so you can see here, it's from Williams and Dempsey, What Works for Women at Work, and it's a study. So now, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that. Okay, here we go. Oh, it worked. Got it? So the way this program works is it's based in science, and when anyone's in the room that has a conflict with what you're saying, you're able to go back and look at the research. Have you guys had any performance bias? And I keep using the word guys, and I mean not to, but I've been socially instructed to do that. Okay, performance bias. So we tend to underestimate women's performance and overestimate men's. As a result, women have to accomplish more to prove that they're as competent as men. This is why women are often hired based on past accomplishments, while men are hired based on future potential. Right? I personally, I've had this happen where, you know, I am being asked to do more when I see another man who, you know, accomplished less than I did, and somehow they think that he's going to be able to lead this team better than I could. To understand the impact of this bias, considers what happens when you remove gender from decision making. There's been a study, you guys have probably heard of this, replacing a woman's name with a man's name on a resume. And it improves the odds of getting hired by more than 60%, it did in this study. And then the last paragraph, performance bias often leads to missed opportunities and lower performance ratings for women. This can have a huge impact on career progression. Okay, so what we're gonna do now, and then you X out of that one, we're gonna break out. So one of the things I love about doing these workshops is that you get a chance to meet with your fellow peers, whether you're in the same company, or in this case, you're all members of On Board, and you're gonna do the other one. So I wanna make sure, does everybody feel comfortable that you're gonna be able to click on here? And again, what we're gonna do is once you break out into your groups, you decide which one of the remaining 5 biases you wanna learn about. And we're probably gonna do this for about 5 minutes, and then we will come back and discuss briefly what you talked about. So we're about to break out, and I'm going to break out into groups that have 4 to 5 participants per room. Or actually, you know what I may do? I'm gonna make it more. I'm gonna say 3 to 4 participants per room, because that way you can really do this together more closely. So are you guys ready to break out? Does anybody have any questions about how this is gonna work? You're gonna learn about these gender biases as a team, and then come back and we'll share a few of your learnings. Hope, does anybody have any objections, or are we good to go, you think?
Nope, we've got, yes, got it across the board, so we're good.
Okay, let's go and conquer these biases. So head over to your rooms. You have to click on the join room. Let me know if anybody does not see the join button. I see people starting to join their rooms, so this is good. Okay, so this one, we're gonna move you to another room. Let's put you in 4. Okay, there should be no one left. Does anyone can hear me? Okay. Linda Klein, are you still here in the main room?
Alba, that was great.
Hey, okay, everybody started coming out.
Yeah, everybody's starting
Still
to
got 20 seconds.
do this now. It was a perfect size group. We had 3 of us. It was really nice.
Perfect. I think it's really nice when you have a small group because everyone gets to really participate and you kind of get to know each other better as people.
Absolutely.
Now, hopefully, let's see. Okay, I think everyone might be back.
I think so too.
Okay. Hey, everybody. So I hope that you found that interesting. So we're going to debrief just for a second, but just to let you know kind of where we are in the workshop. I flashed back on this experiential learning slide. Can everyone see this slide? Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, the little guy is there because this program is meant to be for an audience. Remember I said it's meant to be for like a department manager to bring this to their whole group. And we want men and women. It's supposed to be 50-50 in the room because that's where the real change can happen. So we are on this number 2, which was the bias definition cards, just so you kind of understand where we are. And in the picture, the bias definition cards are number 2 down at the bottom. You can see 3 of them. Okay, so let's kind of debrief. What I like to do is just ask you all who felt strongly about their particular card they looked at and wants to share with us a little bit about what you all talked about. So I'll just call out different cards and we'll see who wants to talk about that one. Did anyone do likability bias?
Yes, my breakout did likability bias.
Okay, and that's Lee. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so who was in your team, Lee? Do you remember?
Kelly, Math EB2.
Okay.
Caroline.
Great, good
So we
job.
kind of
I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, but anyway, I love to use people's names because it's like that's who we are, right? Our identity. So tell us what you guys talked about on likability bias.
We talked about how we have judged a female leader or person ourselves, and then also how we've been judged. And then one cool takeaway that I had was that somebody said one of their male bosses wanted them to be more aggressive and speak up more. And she conveyed to him how if she does that, she's not going to be viewed the same way he is necessarily. And she said that opened his eyes, and that moving forward, he was going to take that into consideration when he's in meetings with women, is that if they're being quiet, they might be dealing with that mental battle. And I just think moving forward, it'd be good to make men aware that maybe you should ask for women's opinions if you're not hearing them speak up freely, or just to make sure the floor is open for them to share.
Oh, I love that, Lee. And you know, the other thing I want to remind us all, remember, it's about a level playing field for everyone. I mentor both men and women. You know, this likability bias isn't just about women who may be quiet. It's about anyone who may be quiet, right? And so when I'm in meetings, I try to lead by example by observing who's doing the talking and who's not doing the talking. And I say gently because some people are afraid to talk. It also exposes an opportunity for development of, hey, you know, maybe my teammate, I need to encourage them to go do Toastmasters, for example, to make them more comfortable at speaking. But the way we can lead is by observing and then saying, hey, Susan, we haven't heard from you. You have some pretty good ideas. Do you have any thoughts today? You know, something like that, right? Okay, good. Let's do one more. I won't choose it. I'll let you choose it. Does anyone feel real strongly and want to talk about one of the other biases that your team talked about?
Yes, Kristen and I talked about attribution bias. We were just so engaged that Kristen didn't even get a chance to speak. But
so tell us about attribution bias. I have my own cheat sheets here. You see that I have them. Okay,
it's an attribute where women are seen as less competent than men. And I was telling her of my experience prior to coming to UPS, because I joined UPS in March of last year, coming from the CDC. And I shared my experience that they the group that I worked in put a lot of emphasis on your degree and whether you had a master's or a PhD. And from my experience was that when I got my master's, I was treated differently. And when I spoke up in meetings, I was recognized. And it was very obvious. And especially for women of color, I saw where women of color were also sometimes talked down to in meetings. So for me, getting my master's was empowering.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing that very personal story and example. And, you know, when I think about attribution bias, one way I think of it is I say that we attribute less competence to women and we attribute more blame to women. And it's not just like we're making this up, right? This is all based in study after study where they do scenarios, and in every, you know, in every case, that's what happens in scenarios. So thank you for sharing. And again, what I want you all to see and recognize is that these 6 types of biases that hurt women, but not only women, others as well, are so powerful for education. Imagine the example we had on the boss, right? Who now is more aware that, you know, people may not speak up as much, or women might not speak up as much. But if we don't talk about this and tell our teammates and our department and our organization that there's these 6 biases, we don't know, right? So the power of this is bringing teams together and sitting in rooms and building. It's also a team development opportunity, as you can see from being in these small groups. Okay, so again, because we only have 90 minutes, we're not going to be able to go through all of them. But the key is these biases exist. It's not opinion. And what we want to do is lead by example and help overcome them. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we are going to do another component of the program, which is icebreakers. Now, I went a little bit out of order because I like doing it this way. I'm a bit of a rebel, I must say. So now that you know a little bit about the different kinds of biases, we're going to see the biases in action in this icebreaker. And in this icebreaker, it's a way for us to ask ourselves and our peers, hey, did you know? So here it is. In a study of performance reviews, what percentage of women receive negative feedback on their personal style, such as, you can sometimes be abrasive. We kind of heard a little bit about in what we just shared, right? You can sometimes be abrasive. Now, what percent of men do you think receive that same type of feedback? So we are going to do a poll. Surprise, surprise, you know I love polls. Again, what you're asking here is, what percent of women receive negative feedback on personal style, like, hey, you can be sometimes too abrasive, versus what percent of men receive negative feedback on personal style? So think about that for a minute. And we've got 60% of people have voted. 70%, if anybody else wants to take a crack at how many women percentage and men percentage get negative feedback. And think about yourself. Have you gotten negative feedback? Whereas you say, oh, well, gosh, that I'm just mirroring, you know, this super high leader. That's how he behaves. So when I do it, I get negative feedback. Okay, so we are going to end the poll. Are you guys interested? Ready for the results? Sharing results. So here it is. This is what you said, which is you think, it looks like 50% of the people think that 80% of women and 9% of men get negative feedback on personal style, right? So, so basically, we think that that certainly that women get a lot of negative feedback. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what the real answer is. We're going to flip to the next slide. Okay, the answer is that 66% of women and only 1% of men get negative feedback on personal style. And so I remember when I read this fact, I was like, wow, only 1% of men. And so I'd be curious, what's your reaction to that? Do you see differences in how, you know, women, the standard that we're held accountable to regarding personal style versus men?
Diana says she's not glad that she was correct in her answer, and Kelly in all caps, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, it's true. You know, I've worked through my career at 2 big companies, and you know, the men who lead in a certain way, everything from their tone to just the way they manage, you know, when women behave that way, we are absolutely penalized. And so it's a fine, they call it the tightrope, walking the tightrope, you know, where we have to be both likable and nice, but yet both strong, but you can't be too aggressive. Okay, so the workshop is full of these icebreakers. So there's other ones that we don't have time to cover, but that are there, and they are a quick way for the audience. You can imagine sitting in a department group meeting with your peers, and these are simple questions that we ask, and we can all answer and discuss as a team or as a group. Okay, so now we are going to go into our next fun breakout section, and I'm going to go over, and once again, I'm going to copy the link and paste it into the chat window. We're going to go back to that website, that fabulous Lean In website, and I am going to copy this into the chat window. So let's see here, chat. And you're going to open another web browser tab. So you can see there, this one ends in set 1 to 4. And I am going to flip back over to.
Alba, did you send it to everyone?
Oh.
I'm not seeing it.
Yes, I know. Let's do that again. No, I didn't. I just sent it to one person because I had been chatting with that person. Okay, thank you very much. Was that Katie? Thank you. Okay, here you go. You should see it there, set 1 to 4. And so what you should see, are you able to see my screen still? Or no, it's probably still on the slideshow.
The slide of workplace situations.
Okay, got it. So we are going to stop the share, and then I'm going to reshare. Oh, I like when I break because then I get to see everybody's face. Okay, now you should see what the website. So you should be seeing this when you copy and paste this into your web browser. It says a woman suggests an idea. Does everybody see that?
Yes, it worked for me. And everybody
Yeah.
looks to be nodding yes.
Okay, so this is going to be very similar to what we just did with those 6 cards, only this time we're going to do this one together so you can see, okay? When you move your mouse or your cursor to the left, do you see how it opens up another window, right? I want you to see that there are 4 sets of cards. And so back to when I showed you the physical kit, right, that comes with cards, you can see there were 4 sets of cards. So now these are 4 sets of digital cards. What you're going to do when you break out is you are going to decide, you're going to go to set 1. We're going to do that together first. So you click on this arrow, and do you see that it opened up a whole bunch of cards within set 1? So I want to make sure everybody can see that. Set 1, and then you have all these cards. And so the first 3 cards say, did you know? Those are the icebreaker cards. We just did one as an example, but we're not going to do icebreaker cards. We're going to actually go into the situations. You can see the situations include meeting dynamics, hiring, everyday interactions, reviews and promotions, mentorship and sponsorship. And so you're going to break out, and then you'll choose, hey, let's do reviews and promotions, and then you will use one of the cards. We're going to do one card together right now, okay? We're doing this one, and if you can see at the top, it's colored green, which green stands for meeting dynamics. Does everybody see upper left? It says meeting dynamics.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the situation, a situation that we might all be involved with one day, and probably has happened to us. A woman suggests an idea in a meeting, and it falls flat. A few minutes later, a man suggests the same or something very similar and gets an enthusiastic reaction. So I wonder, has that happened to anybody? Why it matters. So again, when you're in your breakout rooms, this is what you're going to do. You're going to first understand, why does this matter? Getting credit for ideas is important. It's often how employees get noticed. When people don't feel heard, they may also stop speaking up and sharing their views. Over time, if their contributions go unseen, it can slow their advancement. In both cases, companies are missing out, right? Because you've got, number one, people who have ideas and you're not hearing them. Number two, I mean, you could be making money off these ideas, right? Your team can be growing. Certainly with Katie and I being in the e-commerce division, I was at one time there, Katie is there now. You know, you have to feed off each other in terms of producing, you know, breakthrough innovations in products. So that's why it matters. So on the right, on the white side of the card, now it says, start the conversation. As a group, discuss your reaction to this situation. Have you heard or seen something like this before? What can you do in these types of situations? So again, what you're going to do in your breakout session is talk about the situation that you just read about. And then you're going to together click the down arrow, right? And it says, see what to do. So briefly in this, since we're doing this as a group exercise this one time together, does anybody have any comments? Have you been in a meeting where somebody suggested an idea and you just, nobody seemed to really listen to you? I'd be interested, because it's happened to me. I'm curious if it happens to other people.
It's definitely happened to me. I can speak up and say that.
Yeah,
Anybody
I've
else
experienced that as well.
Yeah, it's frustrating, right? Because it's like, it's hard enough, especially if you're in a group where you're one of only a few women in the room. It takes a lot of guts just to even, you know, say something sometimes, especially if you're in a group that has a dynamic with a lot of strong personalities from the guys. So first you say something, and then when people just disregard you, or maybe they didn't even actually hear you, maybe you talk soft, it's just frustrating. And so in this case, it says, what can you do? You can remind everyone that the idea originated with your woman colleague, right? So one thing that we can do as leaders, and even if we don't lead a team, is recognize that that just happened and speak up for someone. When we speak for ourselves, it doesn't go over well. Someone else speaks for you and it makes a difference. So when you observe that one of your colleagues' ideas got ignored, you could say, hey, you know, Susan made a point about that a few moments ago. I like this direction. Advocating for women coworkers in this way can help them get noticed for their contributions, and it can also position you as a leader. You're demonstrating the kind of behavior, inclusive behavior we need. I think that's such a great example. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to break out again. Okay, and so it's 12:30, and so we've got plenty of time. So we are going to break out into our same groups. And again, what you're going to do is you're going to go to set one of the cards on the left, right? So you switch to the left, you look at set one, and then as a team, your small breakout group, you're going to decide, hey, which one do we want to look at? Let's look at reviews and promotions. And then you'll follow and do the same thing and do as many cards as you have time to do. So we're going to do this for about another 10 minutes or so. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot out the breakout sessions here. Breakout rooms. You're going to go back to the same rooms, okay? So that's cool. Open all rooms, and I'll send you guys a message, when to come back. So start joining your rooms. Neela or Nella, can you hear me?
I'm here.
Okay, now do you remember which group you were in before?
Yes, I was in with Hope and Maddie.
Okay, so hold on. For some reason, the thing's not letting you go. So I'm going to move you in there myself. You're in breakout 6. Okay, here you go.
Awesome.
Bye.
Thank you.
Assign to 6.
Another good one. We're all coming back.
Okay, great.
Uh,
I can't wait. I hear some laughing and giggling. I can't wait to hear some stories.
Cannot stand. I love how breakout rooms just quickly get us to the next point, but interrupted once again.
Oh, well, wait, who was that? Since I can't see because I don't have my gallery open.
It was Diana. Yeah.
Diana. Okay, so since you spoke, Diana, we're gonna get you to be uninterrupted. Okay, you're gonna have
God, you
you're
do
gonna
not
go
need to hear
first. Okay,
So I think what's so
we have
like,
everybody back. Yeah. So tell us, Diana.
I just think what is really hitting me hard here is that like we're all looking at ways we can be allies, but I do think that so often it comes to, if your manager cannot hear, like, this was the situation I experienced, I want you to understand this is like implicit bias, like this is what happens to me, that it still, there is some responsibility on the person that it happens to. Like but that is just the nature of it. But I love how this is teaching us to really look at ways that quickly in conversation and with our awareness be more, I think I'm more confident already, because it's like, wait, this is data. This isn't just my experience. This is happening to everyone here. So we need to speak up. So that's what's hit me in this experience.
Yep. And what I love, again, I mean, I just can't tell you enough. Obviously, you guys can feel my excitement and my belief in this program, is because it does it in little snippets, kind of like what you said, Diana, right? It's like, it's digestible and it's relatable, and we can apply it. It gives you the words of what to say, right? It gives you a little example, say this, right? And you can start practicing it in your head. So let's kind of talk. I'd love to hear from some other folks. You know, there were these 5 different situations, and I'm going to hold up. You can see, you know, I've got the physical cards of all 5 situations. So I'd like to ask the group if someone would like to speak for their group and tell me which situation it was. Let's go through it, since not everyone probably did the same ones. Does anybody want to speak about the one that you covered, and any, you know, kind of moments that you had that you were like, oh, okay. No one wants to share? Whoops.
I'll go ahead. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hey, Kayla.
Hello. Oh, perfect. There you go, Diana. Thank you. So I actually work in HR. So a lot of my job is hiring, performance reviews. So we did the reviews and promotions one, and I was kind of sharing my experience, especially
so which one was it?
The reviews and promotions.
But there were 2 in the card set. Like one. I'm gonna.
Yeah, it was situation 12. It says you're on a team doing performance reviews.
Got it.
And notice that a lot of women get feedback on their speaking style. And so that's definitely something that we hear a lot. And I share an example. A lot of times when we're talking about men in the room, it's they hit their revenue goals, they made this great sale. And then we talk about women and we say, they're a great manager, their team loves them. It's a lot more on the social side of things, their speaking style versus their actual impact in the organization. And then Mallory was also in my group, and she was sharing something that was interesting. When she personally went into her performance review, she was talking about, you know, here's a meeting where maybe I could have spoken up more, or, you know, here's an opportunity that I may have missed. And she said, I feel like men go in the meeting with all of these pros of here's where I did great versus, you know, being self-aware of saying, here's where I can, you know, step up and perform better. So those are just kind of 2 comments we had.
So since we're talking about that, Kayla, and again, since not everybody did all the cards, I do want to, you know, tell you a little bit about this. It says, what do you do in that situation, right? Where women are getting feedback on their speaking style or whatever style. It says, when you notice this pattern, point it out. Explain that this is a common bias against women. Suggest that the group focus on the substance of what people say, not their speaking style. Longer term, recommend that your company use standardized criteria for performance reviews, which will reduce subjective opinions. And of course, that's what ShowMe50 is trying to do, right? With our 4 pillars. Consider recommending unconscious bias training. for employees involved in the review process. When people understand how bias impacts their decision making, they are able to make more objective decisions. Yeah, so I like that, right? Just say it, call it out. Okay, who else wants to share? What other cards did you look at? Anybody want to share? Otherwise, we can look at a couple, just look at a couple ourselves. Let me go back and let's do this one, okay? Since we're on this topic. You're on a review committee. Members argue against the promotion of a woman because she's not a quote unquote leader, even though her team has outstanding results, right? So again, this is full of biases and things that people say about women. So what do you do? So here, let's see. Here's what to do. Point out that the woman's team delivers superb results and suggest that that performance speaks to her leadership, right? So you can say, hey, her team actually gets great results. I think that speaks to her expertise as a leader. You can also ask them to explain the attributes she lacks. I love this one, because when people are asked to justify their thinking, then it can actually be like, oh, well, now that you mention it, yeah, you're right. I can't really think of anything specific, right? So that's a good tactic. Hey, tell me more about, what is it exactly that you mean by why you think she's not a leader? Can you give me some examples? And then it creates a wonderful opportunity for discussion among the reviewing team. Okay, so let's do one more because we still have a little time. If no one, let's go back to the other way. Okay, let's do this one.
Hey, Alba,
this is,
question.
Yeah.
How do you respond when people say women are too emotional?
When they say we're too emotional, you can, let's see if that one's in here.
It is, I think my group did it, but this question that was not in my group. So let me see.
Now, what I turn it around is I say that that a strong, confident leader is a quality that we want in our company, right? We want people who are passionate, who have purpose, and we can also say, describe what you mean by emotional, right? So that would be another thing is, oh, I didn't think she was emotional. I think she's just very passionate and committed. Explain to me what you mean by emotional, right? So I guess my initial reaction was to say something like, oh, I thought she was very committed and passionate. Tell me what you mean by emotional.
Yeah, that's great. And the situation 4 out of 13, Kristen, you may want to look at that one too. It says a lot of what Elba just said, but responding with something like, she doesn't seem too emotional to me. Let's keep talking. So that one helps you.
Yeah. And it's really hard to say that, back to my thing about when you're the only woman in the room and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I know that's bias, but I don't know what to say, right? It's like it takes every courage ounce that you have to say it, but we got to start saying it, right? So practice it in your own time when you're not under that stressful situation. Okay, next time this happens, this is what I'm going to say, and just keep practicing.
Elba,
okay.
With the Me Too movement, I saw the inverse of this, that on college campuses, men were being asked to speak up when they observed behavior where another male colleague was harassing or being abusive towards someone. And that was a whole new way it was a mindset shift to expect men to speak up.
Yes. I mean, it's very similar, right? I mean, think about, it goes back to how we're socialized, that men behave this way and women behave this way. Well, men are supposed to look out for each other, have their backs, and suddenly for a man to violate those norms and for them to hold another man accountable, that is huge, right? It takes a lot of guts for a guy to suddenly say, hey, Joe, I just noticed that you ignored that woman's idea in the meeting, or hey, the way you talked about her is not how you talk about men. I mean, guys, just it's tough for them, and we've got to help them by we've got to start holding them accountable. Maybe when you witness a guy witnessing another guy doing things that are not good, maybe you go to the good guy, right? And you're like, hey, I noticed that you witnessed while this was happening. What could we do differently next time so that we can speak up, right? And just help men find an ally in you so that you guys can really help each other be more, not remain silent. That's the problem. We remain silent. Here's another one. We have a couple of minutes left, so if no one else wants to share what they talked about in their group, we could cover this one. This one is, hey, this is an everyday interaction. A colleague says that they're glad to see so many women in leadership at your company, but in reality, only 2 out of the 15 leaders are women, right? But yet, in some people's mind, they just think, oh, we've got plenty of women leaders. Why it matters. If people think that women are so well represented in leadership when really they're not, they're less likely to do anything to fix the problem. They simply don't see it. And this is so true about racism. The workshop I was in just this morning, we talked about this. It's a loss for your company. When companies have more women in leadership, they tend to have more employee-friendly policies and produce better results. Why it happens when it comes to women in leadership, people tend to be too satisfied with the status quo. 45% of men and 28% of women think women are well represented when only 1 in 10 or 10% leaders in their company is a woman. These low expectations, right, are a sign of generations of inequality. When there used to be no women in senior leaders, just seeing one can feel like a huge step. And so what to do is to point out the numbers, which speaks for themselves. It's great that we have those 2 women on the leadership team, but hey, it's only 2 out of 15. Women are half the population. So we're really underrepresented. And that's when the talent pipeline slide that I showed you, how impactful that is to see on an image that we really are so underrepresented. Okay, so listen, everybody, we've got just a few more minutes left. And so the way I'd like to use our last few minutes is to just ask you to think about a closing activity, or what we do in this closing activity is to think about one thing that you're willing to do going forward, right? How can you take what you learned today, even if it was just one scenario and you memorized one answer to a potential situation you might come into, what are you going to do going forward? So just take a minute and think about that. And I want to tell you that we had posted a document that you can take a copy of and print or save, but it gives you all 6 of the biases that we talk about in the program, and it also has a space for your one activity. So it's, hey, my one action to address gender bias in the workplace is, and just think about it. So just think about for just a minute. I'll let you think about that, and then we'll just close up. So if someone wants to share, does anybody have any one thing that they want to share with the group on, kind of what they're thinking that they might be able to do differently?
I put mine in the chat, but my takeaway is to speak up when I witness bias. And I think that's going to take some practice to develop the etiquette to do it. So I use the analogy of COVID, and when I'm around someone without a mask, having the presence of mind in the moment to either step back if somebody's coming too close, finding the right words and language. And I think I've got to apply that same kind of learning when I witness bias.
I love that. I love the correlation with COVID. You're so right. Who else? Anybody else want to share kind of one thing that they plan to do?
There's a few in the chat, Alba. Kayla said, I second that. Stand up for diverse individuals in the room who may be overpowered by others. Kelly said, observe closely what others say and do and contribute. Take specific notes. Use my specific observations to articulate specific motivational feedback and post to the person's LinkedIn and other internal performance management fields. Love that.
Okay, that's great. Okay, well, listen, I think the last thing I just wanted to quickly just share, you know, this, you know, if you look at the roadmap to gender equality and how we could get there, based on years of research, it's really kind of getting the basics right, ensuring that hiring and promotions are fair, making senior leaders and manager champions for diversity, foster an inclusive and respectful culture, make the only exclusion experience rare, and then offer employees the flexibility to fit work into their lives. And so to the extent that we are able to help our own teams improve in these areas and help our organizations, I think that we truly can make a difference. So with that, I'll just, I'm flashing again the addresses. If you found this helpful, if you want to make a $10 or $15 contribution, or if you want to make a $30 contribution and get the gift, which I was going to show you real quick. I put one of the stickies on my mirror. I don't know if you can see that, but these are the motivational sayings that you can put on your mirror. This one says, hey, today I'm going to show my strength through my confident style. I'm going to practice with a power pose. So I don't know if you guys know about power posing. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Katie and Hope if you want to make any closing remarks before we sign off.
Thank you so much, Alba. I really appreciate it. I am personally so energized and coming away with real tangible action items. And I think from the great conversations with my awesome breakout group, that I'm definitely not the only one. So thank you again. This was fantastic.
Okay.
And for all attendees, thank you so much for joining and participating and putting yourself out there and stretching yourself in what can sometimes be uncomfortable conversations. We miss seeing you all in person, but are so thrilled with the engagement that we've gotten virtually. So thank you, and watch out for information on some of our next events. In the next few weeks, you'll see it via email if you're a member, or via social media, even if you're not. So stay connected with us, and if there's other topics you'd find valuable, or if you have any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. So with that, I'll close this out. Thank you all again.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Alba.
Have a great day, everybody.
Enjoy your day off, Alba. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, so great job. Thanks. Bye. I'm going to hang up now.